What is up, everyone? We are back with another episode of the Fantasy Alpha radio show slash podcast. It's good to be back after missing last week on Halloween. How did
I
how did
miss
it
you, Dom.
how did it go, guys?
It wasn't the same.
Yeah,
Chris had
not
to
even
take
close.
over. Chris wouldn't shut up.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't get out of my mind since I wasn't here last week, but I know the episode before we kind of did this like 10-minute segment on Kirk Cousins, and now he's out for the year. I don't know. I couldn't believe it, but that was just like bad luck for we were like his bad luck.
Pretty
Oh
much.
man. But how'd you guys all do in fantasy this week?
I lost. And I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It wasn't a good week. None of my players played good. Thing I really messed up trading away Jalen Hurts and keeping Tua. I don't know, but Tua's still Tua. You know, he's still going to put up the yards. He's in the MVP racing. But I just love Jalen's dual threat on the ground and in the air. But yeah, talk about that later. Regardless of it all, I caught a loss this week.
Yeah, I feel like that Dolphins game is supposed to be high scoring, your stereotypical high scoring game, but it just wasn't. And yeah, the Dolphins didn't play super great, unfortunately. But for me, I did win this week. Moved to 5-4. I honestly snuck past with a late Stephon Diggs touchdown in that Bills game. That's the only reason I won. Wasn't a very high scoring game. Still out of the playoffs though, because I don't have a lot of points for. I mean, half of our league, it's a 12-person league. There's probably 6 of us that are all 5-4, and I have a low points for, so I'm still out of the playoff race, which is kind of annoying. But wins are wins. But I'm really bummed Alex isn't here because this is kind of the week we're playing each other. So I know he's scared, obviously, but yes, this is.
I think that's why he's missing today. He didn't want to.
He's scared. I mean, it's a rematch of the championship from last year, which, as you guys remember, I won. I beat him. But he's 3-6. I'm 5-4, so I need a win. And he mentioned being the Joker, and he wants to tear apart some people's some lives and some dreams. So we'll let you guys know what happens next week.
Yeah, you guys you're gonna have to give us a recap next week of the results and talk crap then instead of now.
I know.
But I'm doing similar to you, Jack. I'm 5-4 in my dynasty league. I'm sitting at 5th place, and luckily in my redraft league, I'm currently 7-2. So, and I'm first. So it usually doesn't go that way for me, but so far so good. The 3-headed dragons living on. Joe Burrow's doing even better now, so they're all kind of leading me to my 7-2 record because my running backs aren't very good on that team, but happy with my results so far. I'll probably have to trade for a running back before the trade deadline in my league, but other than that, yeah, TJ Hawkinson, there's an injury scare with him, but so far so good.
I feel like the reality of just like it doesn't matter as long as you make the playoffs. I mean, your record, as long as you guys don't have in our league we have like a point. If you have the highest points for, I think you get your money back for wherever the buy-in is. But I mean, as long as you get in the playoffs, I know records are great, wins are great, but as long as you get in, anything can happen.
That's true because last year my dynasty league, I was like 2 under 500 and I went to the final 4.
Damn it.
So you're right. Can't sit back and just be happy with my 7-2 right now. You know, got to keep making moves.
Definitely.
Why don't we head into our first topic of the day today? We're going to do the studs. And I'm going to start off with this one because my guy he has arrived. He has arrived, guys. CJ Stroud from the Houston Texans. He is my number 1 QB in my dynasty league. So I'm really hoping he does well for, at least 10 years down in Houston. It's looking really good for him. 5 TDs, 470 yards. His passer rating's close to 100. He's just lighting it up. He's setting rookie records. It looks like he's going to finish the season strong. And he's only 22. He's only 22, which is crazy. He's younger than me. It's weird starting to watch players that are younger than you on the field. It makes you feel old. But Yeah. What was I going to say
I'd
here?
be careful of that feel old comment if I were
Oh my god.
Chris, we get it. You all.
yeah, makes you feel old. We have players now retiring that are 20 years younger than me, so I don't want to hear this year old thing.
You're right.
Yeah, and Jack, as far as me not shutting up last week, I just want to say that somebody had to keep the damn show going. So
Oh.
please continue.
Chris is going to win an Emmy for guest appearance on a podcast last week.
What do
But,
you think, Tom? You think CJ Stroud's going to get Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I think he does. Just because they're 4-5 right now, and no one really expected them to compete, and it looks like they'll probably finish around maybe like 8-9, which is, I think, pretty good considering he doesn't have a lot of weapons on that team.
Yeah, I think he's far ahead inside of the race for Rookie of the Year. I think like Puka Nacua or whatever might be like second, but yeah.
And you guys have probably heard this stat all week from everyone, but CJ Stroud already has more touchdowns than Kenny Pickett, which is crazy.
That is crazy. I mean, I guess Kenny didn't. He started when did he take over for Trubinsky? I think it was like halfway through the first season, but still, I mean, season and a half he has over CJ Stroud, and he definitely should have more touchdowns, but he doesn't.
Yeah, I saw that stat, but like it's nothing for CJ Stroud to be happy for. Kenny's nothing crazy.
That is true. And my other stud for the week, it was Tank Dell, another rookie from the Houston Texans. It's the second week this season he's put up 30 points. And I think it's worth mentioning that, they'll probably establish their relationship throughout the years. So he'll probably end up being CJ Stroud's number 1 or 2 guy. And last but not least, I'm going to mention Dalton Kincaid. Not scoring, crazy fantasy points, but 15, 17, and 16 the past 3 weeks. The last game, he got 10 receptions. Previous game, he had 9, and it's just each game it's ascending now that Knox, the tight end for the Bills, is out. So it seems like, tight end position, you're always looking for those extra points. I think it's time to start Dalton Kincaid with confidence. That's 3 weeks in a row he's showed out. And he seems to have a good, relationship with Josh Allen on the field. Hasn't dropped many balls. And he really acts as a wide receiver too, more than a tight end. But those were my 3 guys. They were all rookies, ironically, but there were a lot of rookies that balled out this week, so I figured I'd mention them.
Yeah, I have Dalton Kincaid. I know we're for stock rising for sure. I mean, you kind of mentioned I have him at tight end 15. Yeah, you got 11 targets from our boy Josh Allen for 91 yards. Did have that rough fumble. He was trying to leap over 6 guys and fumble the football. But no, I agree. Definitely Josh Allen's number 2 target. I'll get to Duds with Gabe Davis because he suffered the brutal end of that whole situation. But for my studs, I got another Dalton Schultz from the Texans. I mean, I think anybody who's a receiver on the Texans with CJ Stroud had a great week. 10 catches on 11 targets for 130 yards and 1 TD, 27 fantasy points. Coming over from the Cowboys, I think he's found a pretty good home on the Texans. CJ Stroud also had. And then going to kickers, I like to shout out the kickers. I got Younghoe Koo on my team. I've always been a big Koo guy with the Falcons. He had 4 field goals, 3 that were over 50 yards, and 1 that was around 4 yards for 19 total fantasy points. For a kicker, that's a pretty solid week. So yeah, those are my studs. How about you, JB?
That's good. I don't like to. Kickers are so, I think, dependent on the team. If you're on a team and they're not kicking that many field goals, and you're not going to get that many points. So, but that was a good call out, Jack. For my studs, though, I got Cole Kmet, tight end with the Bears. He hasn't been good at all this year, really. But last week he finally showed out, and he had 2 TDs, only 55 yards, not a lot, but see his production going up. So that's a stud for me this week. And then another stud I got is just all the AFC North defenses. Honestly, the Steelers, they had some turnovers. Obviously, they let up points. They always let up some points, but only 17 and some turnovers. So good production from them. We saw what the Browns and the Ravens did. Obviously, that was pretty embarrassing. And then the Bengals only holding the Bills to 18. One of those touchdowns coming really late. They got an INT off Josh Allen, who has been throwing a lot of interceptions, but that's another story. But yeah, all the AFC North defenses, they're all good pickups and good starts down the road, I believe. But yeah, that's what I got for my studs.
Solid picks there. I'm gonna just mention one more guy I have on my list here. Joe Burrow is officially back. Speaking of embarrassing the Bills, he got 28 points this week. The first 5 or 6 weeks he was sitting at QB 28, and I think a lot of people were out for him on the year. But I think he's back in full force. He's healthy now. I know a couple of us recommended to maybe buy low on him a couple weeks ago, and I think for the rest of the year, the Bengals will probably be a top 5 AFC team. Now that the Bills are kind of, they kind of flipped scripts. The Bills were, rising. Now the Bengals are rising, and the Bills are falling.
I was losing faith on the Bengals, to be honest, but yeah, that was they're right back at it. So.
Yeah.
So is Burrow and everybody.
Crazy. The AFC North, they're all like 7-2, 6-3. Crazy. What's gonna happen? They all might end up. All 4 of them might end up in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what the Steelers can do, honestly. But they have the easiest schedule. So
right.
The playoff picture today, I think, is all of them are in the playoffs right now. I think. I guess except for the Browns.
I thought this was a fantasy show. I didn't. It was late. This was ESPN. Seriously,
we can do it all, Chris.
Well, it's obvious that you can do it all, Jack.
Thanks, Chris.
You've actually had 2 closets you've come out of lately. So.
2 doors.
Are we on duds? I had to let my dog go upstairs and see his mommy, and then I had to pee, so I kind of walked away from the console, and I noticed I had the studs on underneath. Are we on duds now?
Yeah, I think
we are.
I think we're on duds now. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to catch up. Okay, continue.
All right, we're gonna transition to the duds of the week. JB, why don't you start off with?
Well, I'm gonna start with one that was on my team who is just so bad or good every week. It was George Pickens. He had negative fantasy points for me this week. Negative fantasy points. So I don't know what I'm gonna do there. I don't know. I think my team might be done for, honestly. We had a good run, but we'll see how it goes. And then Michael Thomas from the Saints. He just hasn't been good. Like you like to say, Dom, he's getting old. He's old. So it sucks to see someone who used to be good, not really performing that well. I think he had 1 reception last week. Or maybe only 1 target. I don't know. But I know he didn't put up like any fantasy points. So that was that's definitely got to be a dud, and probably sit him for maybe a good portion of the year. So, but that's what I got. What you got, Jack?
Yeah, I got 2 duds here. Yeah, Gabe Davis, I mentioned him before. I mean, he had 2 targets, no catches, no yards against the Bengals. I know we just talked about Dalton Kincaid. I mean, he kind of took – I mean, Gabe Davis has been having a pretty great year. I think this week he just fell off. Just with no targets from Josh Allen. He wasn't even looking for him. I think he has Dalton Kincaid on his fantasy team, which seems unfair, so he was throwing him the ball. Justin Herbert is my other dud, which is surprising after that big win against the Jets yesterday. I mean, they put up 27 points, but as a quarterback, Eckler had 2 rushing touchdowns, which doesn't do any point or anything for quarterback owners. He was also sacked 5 times. That Jets defense is pretty solid. I have he threw for 136 yards. But yeah,
Oh, wow.
Eckler on the ground helped him put the pass the Jets. So those are my 2 duds.
I didn't even watch that game. They put up 27 points. So Only 130 passing yards from
I know,
Herbert.
isn't that kind of nuts?
Oh wow.
Well, they scored an offensive or a defensive touchdown. Eckler had 2. Yeah, it was a pretty low scoring game. I think it was, but so those are my 2 duds. Dom, how about you? Also, can I shout out the whole Christmas gear we got going on here? I mean, it is what?
So early. It's early.
I know. Is this November 7th?
Jeez.
What, you like the Yoda there? Yeah.
I was a baby Yoda or regular Yoda?
Regular Yoda.
Ah.
But just going off of what JB said, I also had George Pickens on my list. I was there at the game, sitting in the end zone right where George Pickens didn't plant his feet. So,
How much were those tickets? Oh God.
So I do a little cheat code.
Fill me in.
I registered through the University of Pittsburgh, so I get tickets for like $50 because
To the Steelers games?
yeah, but you get a text through your phone and they'll be like 2 tickets on sale, order now before it's too late. So it's like limited quantity. It's like their student zone.
What?
Yeah.
Let me sign up for this. I
Yeah,
used to go to Pitt.
Yeah, if you have, I think it's really any college email you could use. So yeah, and they'll just send you a text a couple days before game day.
Wow.
Little hack to our listeners.
Do you think maybe I could take advantage of that?
You're old.
I think so. If you have a college email, yeah,
Really?
yeah.
No.
No, maybe
As
I'll
soon
make
as you show up, they'll say you got to go.
You
Chris.
think, you think they'll really pay attention to that? Never mind. Don't answer that question.
But yeah, that was rough. JB seeing that George Pickens he couldn't plant his feet.
Couldn't plant his feet. He's not even paying attention. You see him always do that toe tap stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've been catching up with the drama off the field.
Yeah.
George Pickens like unfollowing and following the Steelers.
Acting
like-
like a little kid. It's
Yeah,
like we
he-
got Juju back or AB.
Yeah, seriously. Mike Tomlin said he's just a pebble in his shoe or something like that. So, but on the flip, Deontay Johnson, he's back from his injury and he's putting up points. So
First touchdown in what? 2 years.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like that.
But I'm gonna talk about Bryce Young now. I think he's a bench for the rest of the year for me. He was the second quarterback I drafted, and I was hoping to hit at least one of them, either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Looks like for now, Bryce Young isn't that guy. I know he doesn't have a lot of pieces on his team, but he hasn't scored more than 13 fantasy points yet this year. Positive for Bryce Young is he's still healthy. Like, I'm surprised he hasn't been hurt yet just because he's only like 5'10", and people were concerned that he wouldn't be able to basically survive, especially on the Panthers with the Panthers O-line. But yeah, right now I'm gonna stash Bryce Young on my bench. Hopefully he'll do better next year, but he's definitely one of my duds for this week. Next up, I have Jamar Chase, only 8 points, 4 catches. Even though Joe Burrow's back, Jamar Chase wasn't performing as we thought he would. And yet there's like an injury report. He hurt his back. So definitely look out for that if you have Jamar Chase on your team. I might have to be sitting him next week, and I'll probably lose my game if I do. Last but not least, Devontae Adams. I'm shocked that he didn't demand a trade before the trade deadline. I know there's like 80 million tied to his name, so that's probably why. But yeah, it's not looking good for him. He's definitely trending in the wrong direction with a lack of efficient quarterback on that offense. He can't score more than 10 fantasy points over the past 3 or 4 games. So it's really tough because people drafted him high in my league, and they don't really know what to do with him just because he had that 144-point game, but since then it's been rough for Devontae Adams owners. So definitely some big names on my duds list, but thought they'd be worth mentioning.
I'm surprised we didn't talk about it. The Taylor Swift effect.
Which one was it?
The Taylor Swift effect.
Oh,
Travis
man.
Kelce
Travis Kelce.
had what, like 4 points this week?
Yeah.
And they were over in Germany. I guess she doesn't travel internationally. But someone did tell me she has like an international part of her tour. So I guess, I don't know, there was a shot that she might be there. But I don't know. Travis Kelce doesn't perform when his lady friend's not there. So something to look out for, fantasy owners, for Mr. Kelce now.
That is true. I mean, I think maybe you or someone else predicted that might happen like early on in the season. Like Taylor Swift not being there might be a bad sign for the Chiefs. They might lose. But
Yeah, we'll see. I think they got a bye week this week, so hopefully their schedules line back up again.
all right, let's head to the Week 10 stardoms. Jack, why don't you start off with this topic?
So I have Tony Pollard. I'm sure Chris will jump on here because the Cowboys are playing the Giants this week. So I'm picking against the Giants this week, Chris.
Well, finally.
Thank you.
I mean, they only have to like lose every game and have some. I mean, when Tyrod Taylor is replaced by who?
Like,
Who is this guy?
Italian guy.
Vincenzo something.
I'm surprised you didn't pick him up, Jack.
Yeah, seriously. I'm surprised you're not working some blockbuster trade.
It stops with Tyrod. I mean, Daniel Jones is out for the season. So
Pat Mahomes, Derrick Henry for Vincenzo.
Yeah.
That's the trade you're working.
You never know.
I say no. I'm going to keep Vincenzo.
But Tony Pollard is my stardom this week. I'm going up against the Giants. Cowboys looking for a bounce back game. I have him at running back 17. Yeah, solid mid-tier running back. Excited for that matchup this week. But for my, we sticking with stardoms, just stardoms. We'll come back.
Yeah, stardoms for now.
So yeah, Tony Pollard is just my one stardom for now. JB, how about you?
All right. I got Justin Fields, even though Dom was saying it's about time, to get rid of him.
Honestly, I think that's worse than starting a New York Giant, but good Lord.
Is he back this week? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he's supposed to come back against Carolina.
Okay,
so, Carolina, they statistically they give up more yards on the run, but Carolina's a bad team. Justin Fields can do it both with the legs and the arms. Seeing him to have a good game once this year. So I think he just needed some time off. That's all. So I got Justin Fields as my stardom, and then I got Brian Robinson Jr. Who he's been on and off, but you look at the games that he's on there when the games are close and they're actually running the ball and giving him the touches. And I expect this game against the Seahawks to be a close game. And I think Brian Robinson Jr. is gonna do good, have some good fantasy points this week. He's a stardom for me. So some wild picks this week for me, I know, but
yeah, JB, you're always giving me crap for my crazy. I love it. I'm rubbing off on you. I love it.
I might have some crazy ones too this week, but I'm gonna add one now that I know Justin Fields is starting. Start DJ Moore back in your lineup. He is a top 10, top 15 wide receiver when Justin Fields is on the field. There was that one game earlier in the year he had like 50 points and 3 touchdowns. So DJ Moore is definitely that guy for Justin Fields to throw the ball to. And I planned on not watching that game on Thursday night, but now I am. I really didn't know Justin Fields was going to be back. People in my fantasy league are like out on Justin Fields and they want the backup to start, but I'm just like not listening.
He has not been playing that good. So I don't even know why they would say that.
Yeah, I don't either. They're probably
they like the D2 guy.
Yeah, I think that's why. I'm going to go with my boy Marquise Brown from the Arizona Cardinals. Speaking of Justin Fields coming back this week, Kyler Murray is back. I'm so happy.
with his short ass.
Yeah. Yeah. I really hoped Bryce Young would be like a copycat for Kyler, but it's just they're definitely not the same. But you got to start Marquise Brown if you have him. Last season, when Marquise Brown and Kyler Murray were both on the field, Marquise Brown would score, 20 points, 15 points, 25 points. Off the field, he's like averaging around 10 points. But yeah, I think for the Ravens, Marquise Brown was explosive. Now that he'll have a good quarterback behind him, I expect, maybe even trade for him before the game this week. If you trust Kyler Murray and Marquise Brown, because they don't have many people to throw to in that offense. And I think Kyler Murray will definitely try to lean on, his number one wide receiver to, earn some respect on his name if he plans to play the rest of the year. And it's going to be interesting to see if the Cardinals can, maybe turn it around a little bit. I know they only have one win, but I think the Falcons are only favored to beat them by 1 point. So you could definitely see the impact Vegas thinks Kyler Murray has and everything like that. So it's definitely something to look out for. My next start is going to be Russell Wilson. I know we've shit on him all year, but looking at the stats, he does have 16 TDs, which is, pretty high if you look across the board. I think it's in the top 5 or 6 right now. My prediction is he scores more than 20 fantasy points this week against I don't even know. Wait.
They played Buffalo.
Oh wait, yeah. For some reason I have the Falcons, but it's Buffalo. And I think they'll kind of shock Buffalo actually, because they had a bye week to prepare. Putting my blind faith into Sean Payton yet again, but I think they'll scheme something up. Jerry Jeudy doesn't have basically any points on the year, and I think they're going to fix that quick this week. So I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go the Broncos beating the Bills.
I like that take.
Jeez. Once Alex is out of here, the Mr. Only person with a conscience here, we just go crazy with our picks. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I don't like the Bills. So
I know they're not playing well.
yeah, they're not.
That's all I got for my stardoms of the week. Why don't we transition to the next topic? Let's do the Week 10 situms. JB, why don't you start off with this one?
All right, I got Evan Ingram, tight end for the Jaguars. He's getting a lot of targets, but he hasn't scored a touchdown yet this year, and they're going up against the Niners. So we know how vicious that defense can be. We also know how good Trevor Lawrence has been playing, how bad the Niners have been playing. But expect them to come full throttle off the bye. And I don't think Ingram is going to get that many fantasy points. Like I said, he hasn't had a touchdown this year, but he will get the targets. I just don't think he's going to produce on them. So that's one of my situms. Other situm I got is Lamar Jackson. I think he's number 1 right now in MVP racing, but he's going up against a hot Cleveland defense. And statistically, we know Lamar doesn't play as good against AFC North teams, and we know how vicious of a matchup that's going to be. So I could see him honestly breaking out for a few runs, but I don't see him throwing too much in the air, and I don't see there being too many points scored. So I'm going to have to go Lamar Jackson with my situm. If you have a decent backup, I mean, if not, then obviously you're going to want to start Lamar. But if you have somebody else, in my leagues, then I would say situm. What you thinking, Jack?
Dom, you mentioned it before, and I just think it's unfortunate, but I think Devontae Adams is a sit from here on out. I know handsome Jimmy Garoppolo is not playing, and they have Alex O'Connell, some backup. The production just isn't there for Devontae, which is such a shame. I also thought he was going to get traded before the deadline, JB, but I guess not. They're going up against the Jets this week. That defense looked great last night. 5 sacks against Justin Herbert. I think pressure on this young QB, Devontae is going to get no production there. My other sit-em this week is my boy King, Derrick Henry. They're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, who's the number 3 defense. The Titans with what's their new quarterback's? Whatever their new quarterback's name, another young guy.
Will Levis.
Will Levis, that's right.
Mhm.
Yeah, they've been relying on the run game a lot, and Derrick Henry has produced, but I think this week is going to be a bad game for the Titans in general. I think the run game doesn't produce, which leads to Will Levis trying to make plays, which that rookie, I know he had a great first game, but I think that defense is experienced, and they're going to come back and make him pay for it. I think Baker Mayfield has a bounce-back game as well. I know they lost a tight one against Houston, against C.J. Stroud, which was a super exciting game. So I think they're coming with a vengeance this week, and they're going to take it out on the Titans. So those are my 2 sit-ems.
Yeah, starting off, I'm going to double down with what JB said. Lamar Jackson, he's only had 10 points the last 2 games. Definitely. The thing about Lamar Jackson is, like, he'll have, 3 games in a row with 10 points, and then he'll have, like, a 50-point game. That's what I don't really like about, I only have him on one team, and it's not even a league that counts, so I never really bring it up on this podcast. But I just really like a more consistent QB. And I think this inconsistency will continue for the 3rd week in a row. The Browns defense is top 5 in the league. And yeah, it's a division opponent. So I expect that to be a grueling one for Lamar Jackson. Second up, this might be surprising. I'm Trevor Lawrence. I know he's coming off a bye week, but he's playing against the 49ers, and the 49ers are kind of in a slump right now. So I expect that head coach they have to really whip him into shape. And Trevor Lawrence hasn't scored more than 20 points this year yet. He's sitting at a QB 17, which he's really not meeting his expectations that everyone thought. People thought he'd be a top 5 AFC quarterback. And even though that team has a good record right now, he's just not – it's not converting to fantasy points as of yet. And I don't see that happening against the 49ers. That defense is stacked. And, for year 3 for Trevor Lawrence, it's not very good. So even though I have him, I have to start him with C.J. Stroud on my Dynasty League, but not expecting a good show out by him, especially because heading into the season, I know his wide receiving core was like really hyped up, but I didn't really believe in them from the start. So it'll be interesting to see if they could squeak out a win at home. But fantasy-wise, I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to score more than 20 points for the first time against the 49ers. Lastly, this is going to be another shock. I'm sitting C.J. Stroud against the Bengals. The Bengals have held their opponents to 17 points, 14 points, under 20 points the last 3 games, and they've versed the Bills, the Seahawks, and the third team slipping my mind, but they all had.
They played the Niners or no?
Oh yeah, right. They beat the 49ers and they held them to 20 points. So just going off of that trajectory, I mean, if you could hold those teams to under 20 points, I definitely think that could happen against the Texans. So I could definitely see, C.J. Stroud having a stellar week last week and then following it up with maybe a 14 or 15-point game, which you're kind of looking for a little bit more points than that if you're starting a quarterback. So right now, if you have a good replacement for, Trevor Lawrence and C.J. Stroud, I'd maybe try sitting them for more favorable matchups, but I'm going to have to rock them even though I'm suggesting to sit them because my third backup's Bryce Young. I'm definitely not starting his ass. But I guess I wanted to kind of bring up a topic. I know it's kind of off the whim. We don't have to talk about it too long. But I'm wondering what you think the impact of Kyler Murray coming back. And I'm also wondering, what do you think the impact of Josh Dobbs will be for the Vikings? Just because those are two, Arizona quarterbacks that played this year. Dobbs is now on the Vikings. Interested to hear what you think about the fantasy impact for both of those teams, considering Dobbs played so well in his first start for the Vikings, and he had like a 3-day turnaround.
I'll go ahead. Because I'm sold on Josh Dobbs. I was gonna put him on my waiver wire. Because I think the kid. I just really like the kid. He came out. He had 2 TD passes, 150 yards, a rushing touchdown, and he didn't even have much time to learn a playbook. So I think it looks like he's fitting good. He's gonna fit good into the system. And I think that it's going to be good for the Vikings. That they have somebody who can be as impactful as Dobbs, because even the teammates are already like kind of sold on him. If you heard any of them talk, and then Kyler Murray. Jack, you want to take this one?
Dude, I was gonna take. Yeah, Kyle. I mean, the Cardinals are just a mess. They're not going to win out. There's nothing going to happen in Arizona, even with Kyler Murray back. I think there's a lot of issues on both sides of the ball. I don't think Kyler Murray's I think he's going to finally stop playing video games and start to play football, but I think he's got a lot to prove to anybody. So I don't really know what the impact looks like. But Joshua Dobbs, if you ask me about him, I think his story was great last week. I think, JB, jumping off what you were saying. I mean, they lost Cam Akers this week too to a torn Achilles. Everybody's tearing their Achilles, by the way, this year, which is just crazy. But I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback. Alexander Madison's, I think, the only stable running back they have, and he's a dual threat. So I'm pretty high on Josh Dobbs as well. Excited for what to see he does with the season. The Vikings are very much in the race for the division. I think they're playing the Saints this week at home. So I think it's a favorable matchup. The Vikings are fun to watch. I know Justin Jefferson. I mean, if he was healthy, it'd be a really fun team to watch, especially. So I think, is there any timeline on him coming back, Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, I don't know.
Checking the stats, Tom, but
yeah,
I think once he comes back, I mean, another weapon for Josh Dobbs, who's just.
I thought he was playing that game. I didn't know he did that without him. That's phenomenal.
I don't think he was playing, but Kyler Murray. I'm just not. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people are very invested in that whole situation just because of the record of their 1-7. 2-7. So they got a long way to go. I know they have their quarterback back, but they got a lot of other issues to deal with.
I don't know how Kyler Murray's going to handle it, because the new Call of Duty drops this week, and he's also so it's a very conflict of interest for him,
Yeah, we'll see if he even plays. I mean, it's all the way on Sunday. It's a long week.
Oh man, but I have to agree. I'm taking into consideration what Jack said about Kyler Murray. I don't know why I have a soft spot for him, but for some reason I think he'll come back. He'll be the most fantasy relevant person on his team, and I'm predicting that'll help Marquise Brown. Joshua Dobbs, I actually didn't believe in him prior to this week, but just seeing him, ball out for the Vikings, like within a week span, learning the playbook and pulling out a win, definitely good to see, considering, the Vikings are one of my more favorite teams in the league. And it's going, it's fitting well with the storyline I thought would happen to the Vikings. They started off pretty rough, but I thought they'd come back kind of like the Bengals were. Thought it would be with Kirk Cousins, but seems like whoever's at quarterback, they got those offensive weapons. They got Hawkinson still. Justin Jefferson will be back soon. So, and the NFC is so weak, I think they could slip in to the playoffs, at a 7 seed. So definitely the Vikings and the Cardinals are getting a fantasy point-wise upgrade with these two players being in the lineup for the foreseeable future. Kind of what JB was saying, why don't we transition to the waiver wires real quick? JB, you were mentioning how you said you'd pick up Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs, good replacement for Kirk. It's looking like I'd pick him up. We talked a lot about him, so I'm not gonna stay on him. But he is smart as hell, seems like. So, that's good to see because not many people that go into the NFL are that intelligent. So I think that will help as well. And then I also have Tank Dell. He's back for the Bucks, and he was a target magnet. Had like 11 targets, 6 catches for 115 yards. Saw a lot of people dropped him after 6 weeks, his concussion. So it might be a good person to go back out and get. Yeah, I got Zach Charbonnet as well. Seahawks. He's getting a good amount of carries, even though they got killed against the Ravens. He's getting a good amount of carries. I think he's getting half of what I forget their other running back's name right now off the top of my head. But
Walker.
Yeah, Walker. I think he's getting half of what Kenneth Walker's getting. And he's getting targets as well out of the backfield receiving. So I think he'd be a good running back too if you're looking for somebody. So yeah, that's what I got for my waiver wires. What you thinking, Jack?
For me, I have Keaton Mitchell from the Ravens. He had a great week this week. He had 9 touches for 138 yards and a touchdown. He's very much just kind of like an intrigue play. I mean, he's a long shot for sure. I mean, with how much running power they have in Baltimore, he's definitely someone that's, it's a long shot for, I think he's projected like 1.7 points this week. But if you're looking for a long shot play for a running back, I think he's worth a look. I think the other one that I have here is Carson Wentz signing with the Rams.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Carson.
With Matthew Stafford. Looks like he hurt his thumb or finger, some finger. Just an interesting play there. If you were a fan of Carson Wentz, he's back. If you liked him on the Eagles, he's back. Just another intrigue play. If you liked him before, he's back in the league. I don't know how the Rams will use him. I mean, Matthew Stafford's a dog. He'll play through anything. So how much use they use out of Carson is debatable, but I'm going with the intrigue plays. And just had to shout out Carson Wentz for being picked up by the Rams.
The way some of these quarterbacks just stick around is crazy to me. It's great,
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Carson Wentz again. I thought maybe the Vikings would pick him up with the injury because he's kind of like Kirk Cousins in that archetype. But my Rams fan in my dynasty, he kind of filled me in maybe 2 weeks ago that they were looking at Carson Wentz. So I don't know how he got that information, but Carson Wentz definitely one of my guys. If he starts, he has those 2 big wide receivers in LA to throw to, and I know he likes to throw the ball. He's proven to put up 30 TDs in a season, 4,000 yards. So if Matt Stafford is out, I'd definitely stash Carson Wentz either on your bench to see how he does. And there's always quarterback injuries like week in and week out, so you never know who's gonna fall injury prone on your team. Other than Carson Wentz, I'm gonna throw in Quentin Johnston. He hasn't really performed well at all this year, but it seems like the wide receivers for the Chargers are injury prone right now. Mike Williams is out for extended period of time. And Josh Palmer, he just got injured, and he seemed to be Justin Herbert's wide receiver 2. With him out, I'd suggest Quentin Johnston. They drafted him pretty high in the draft this year, so definitely someone to look out for as we start to head into the later half of the season and the fantasy playoffs. With that being said, I don't have any other pickups, but we do have a little surprise trade here.
I could take this, Dom. I got asked honestly like an hour before we started the show. Let me pull up my team. But yeah, just straight up, this kid's in third place, which I don't like trading again in general, especially when their team is better than mine. But it's a straight up trade for Michael Pittman and Cole Kmet. I think, Dom, you mentioned him earlier. Yeah, tight end out of Chicago. Michael Pittman has been under the radar wide receiver 11 for the Colts, with Gardner Minshew leading the way there. Yeah, I wanted to get your guys' perspectives. Let me just run down my team real quick. Some other wide receivers. I got Diggs. I got Godwin. And Chris, you can shout me out again, but Darren Waller is now on the IR. So hence I'm looking for another tight end. I picked up Hunter Henry this week, who actually had a pretty solid week. He's tight end 18 I have here. But he put up, I think, 13 fantasy points this past week, but I just don't see that production staying. So I wanted to get your guys' opinions.
So I brought up Cole Kmet as a dud. Yeah, you're fine. Earlier, I mean as a stud earlier. I think this is a pretty even trade, to be honest with you. But do you have Michael Pittman?
Yeah, so I would get Cole Kmet.
I would keep Michael Pittman personally. He's tight end 11, and he has a lot more upside than Cole Kmet. But I do think that Cole Kmet is going to continue to get better and keep getting a little bit more targets. But I think that Michael Pittman is the one to stay with. But I think this is a pretty even trade. It's just who you like better, really. What are you thinking, Dom? Or Jack, go ahead if you were going to say
something. No, just if I were to trade, Tyler Boyd would be my fill-in for Michael Pittman, most likely. So if that takes it. Yeah, changes your opinions or anything. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
And then, Jack, who's your backup tight end?
So I have Hunter Henry right now with Darren Waller falling out. So Hunter Henry is my starter right now.
Oh, man, okay. I think this is, an even trade, but I think there's more upside with Michael Pittman, and I'll explain why. I think Josh Downs just got injured last game, and it seems like he's going to miss some time. He has a nagging leg injury. So I think a lot of the targets that were going to Josh Downs are now going to go to Michael Pittman. And Michael Pittman's already the wide receiver 1 on that team. Plus, Gardner Minshew is more of a pass-heavy QB compared to how Anthony Richardson was. So I know Gardner Minshew will sling it. And Michael Pittman seems to be that guy, moving forward if Josh Downs will be out. I do like Cole Kmet as a tight end, especially with Justin Fields coming back. But just, kind of balancing how much Justin Fields will throw versus Gardner Minshew. I could see Minshew maybe throwing 25 passes a game. Sometimes Justin Fields is under that 20 mark. So I'm just, it's more about like measuring the number of opportunities you think they'll both get. So I guess I think I would keep Michael Pittman, especially if Tyler Boyd is the guy you're going to fill in that slot with, just because Tyler Boyd is wide receiver 3 on that team.
I think just the reality of, Cole Kmet's a great tight end. I think tight ends just in general, they don't score as many points. They're just not used as much as wide receivers. That's just the reality of football and fantasy football. So yeah, in my opinion, I'm definitely with you guys of kind of like veto in this trade. Because I think the upside with Michael Pittman definitely outweighs the possibility of a tight end like Cole Kmet going off consistently. And I've had consistency out of Michael Pittman already. So yeah, but appreciate the insight. I think that's an interesting topic for us to talk about sometime on podcasts. Just, the relevancy of each position. Is it worth getting one of those tight ends? I think Travis Kelce's like the main tight end you go after because he's pretty much a top wide receiver. But especially making trades with tight ends. So anyways, thanks guys. Carry on, Dom.
No, it's always good bringing in like a trade topic. I enjoy, debating, whether it be the viewers commenting or, one of us has a surprise trade in our leagues. I think it's always a good topic to discuss. Why don't we transition to our last topic of the week? We're going to do our game of the weeks for week 10. There seems to be a lot of good matchups this week, but Jack, do you have any on your list that you're looking forward to?
Yes, we mentioned this game a couple of times, which just plays the 49ers and the Jaguars. I think Debo, I have him as questionable on here, which I think Brock Purdy is just chomping at the bit for him to come back, just for his confidence, just to have another weapon that they can use the running game, that they can use in the wide receiver game. I think the Jaguars are a great team. I'm kind of surprised, Dom, with your being low on Trevor Lawrence. I think he's been playing great, but I agree he hasn't been outstanding. But he's been consistent. So I think it's a high fantasy scoring event. I think the 49ers, DJB, yeah, they kind of lost their step last week against the Bengals. So, or no, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. They had a bye.
So, yeah, that's my game of the week. Hoping for a lot of fantasy points. And, yeah, just looking forward to a great game.
I'll go ahead. I got the Vikings and the Saints. Both 5-4, both over 500. Both teams that like to score a decent amount. If you look at the Saints, they've actually been putting up a good amount of numbers. Derek Carr's been slinging the rock. So I think that this is going to be a pretty high-scoring outing and see what Dobbs can do. But I think that it's going to be a good game, and I think it's going to be a good teller for if Dobbs is actually one to stick with or not. So that's my game of the week.
Yeah, those are both solid picks, guys. Going in your favor, Jack, I just realized Etienne might be out for that game, so they might have to rely on the pass more. So that's a good point. My thoughts on it was it's just like I know he's been consistent. It's just like surprising he hasn't scored, like it hasn't converted to fantasy, Yeah. But I definitely, in real life, I think he's definitely like a solid quarterback, like you trust on the field each week. Just for some reason, I don't know why, it's just like not converting to fantasy points. And then JB, I think Derek Carr is trending up in the right direction. He's been going off the past few weeks, and it seems like they're getting in their rhythm. And it'll be interesting to see how Josh Dobbs does week 2 in that offense.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he beats the Saints, like he might be, a legit quarterback moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just throw in one last game. I'm gonna go with the Chargers versus Lions. Definitely an interesting matchup. I think it could be an upset. I think the Lions are favored by everyone right now. But I could see, it doesn't always seem like the Chargers show up each week, but for some reason next week, I think they're going to show up.
It's home, so that counts for something too.
Yeah, Good point. And Justin Herbert, he did pretty poorly this week. Barely any passing yards. I think that'll change this week. So I think that'll be a very close game fantasy-wise. I think a lot of points will come from it. And that's really the only game I wanted to mention.
There's one more we're all forgetting about, and that's me against Alex this week in fantasy.
Yeah.
So that's really the game of the week. None of these NFL games really matter, but we'll be sure to just put up the score either way. Even if I lose, we'll put in the picture next week for the final score.
You guys have to live stream your reactions on Sunday.
Definitely will.
Who do you have starting this week for that game, Jack?
Let me see. Let me run down real quick.
So we could get a little preview.
Yeah, so Daniel Jones is out. So Russell Wilson, who we're high on this week, starting him. Let me just pull up the matchup here. Then I got Derrick Henry, who I'm low on this week, but he's still projected 14 points. Joe Mixon, Diggs, Godwin, Michael Pittman, Hunter Henry, Tyler Boyd, Greg Joseph, and the Bills defense, which is interesting pick there, Jack, having Russell Wilson as your quarterback, but also the Bills defense, who they're playing against. We'll look to make a change there, but Alex has Justin Herbert. He's got a couple guys he needs to sub out. He has McLaughlin, J-Lo from the Broncos. He's got his team's bad. Remember, I hope he's listening. Justin Herbert, Cam Akers, who's out, Gabe Davis, who had 0 points last week, Eric Wilson, who has no quarterback, Zay Flowers, who plays for the Ravens, Kyler Pitts, no quarterback there. Tutu Atwell but yeah, he's got a lot of moves to make this week. He does have Rashid Shaheed.
Rashid Shithead, yeah.
Yeah.
If he upsets you, that'd be crazy, Jack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll probably
we're gonna
stop
win,
doing the podcast.
We're gonna win.
Just
I can't wait for next week.
I'll be texting you the whole weekend, Chris.
I can't. I can't wait because he's going to beat you. That's just exactly that's how the fantasy works.
I know it's unfortunately true.
It is absolutely.
We'll see.
Absolutely.
It's going to come down to coaching as it always does. So, and I know I haven't beat Derek. So,
yeah. Well, you're a great coach. We all know that, Jack.
Thanks, Chris. I love sarcasm through and through with you.
I can't help it. I sit behind the scenes and I listen to you knuckleheads talk about all this stuff, and you know what happens. Us old guys, we can't help ourselves. On a lot of things, actually. And with that, I'll let Dom take us out of the show.
All right.
Yeah, I'm putting $20 on Jack winning. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Dom. JB, how about you?
I'm not throwing any wagers around, but if I were, I'd put $20 on Jack.
I heard you loved wagers there, JB.
I do,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they
How
have.
about loser has to wear that wig that you wore last
Oh
week?
yeah, that wig. That's not really like a punishment,
Yeah.
is it?
I wanted
That's
to know
true.
where your wig. Where is your wig? I mean, you look terrible. Where's your wig?
I look
Is
terrible.
that the reason you have all those sticky notes on the wall behind you to remind
Oh,
yourself
yeah.
not to gamble?
Yeah, that's actually the amount of money that I lose each month.
There you go. Don't gamble. Don't gamble. Don't gamble. Don't gamble. Call my bookie. Yeah, I get it. All right, now I'll let Dom take you out of the show.
I think the punishment has to be the punishment JB mentioned. It was like 2 weeks ago. The dog cage. That was,
Oh, jeez.
I can't stop thinking about that's such an
dog
absurd one.
I'll agree to it if Alex does, because I'm pretty confident in my team.
Yeah, we got to get it done right on the show.
Live streaming for sure.
As always, thanks again for tuning in to our listeners, our viewers that watch us weekly. We enjoy talking about fantasy football each week. And we're already 10 weeks in. The season's halfway done. So tune in next week to see the results of Jack's game. We'll probably hear Alex crying, and JB will give us his knowledge as always.
See you guys.
See you guys.